Steve Harvey had hosted Family Feud for 15 years, but what happened on that September afternoon would haunt him forever. The young Indian woman in the stunning yellow sari had just given an answer so unexpected, so deeply personal, that the entire studio fell into stunned silence. Steve, known for his quick wit and endless commentary, found himself completely speechless as tears rolled down his face. The cameras kept rolling, capturing a moment that would soon break the internet and change countless lives. But to understand why Aditi Betty's simple answer to a Family Feud question brought an entire production crew to tears, you need to know what nobody in that audience could have imagined. Aditi Betty stood at the Fast Money podium, her traditional yellow sari gleaming under the studio lights like captured sunshine. The 26-year-old software engineer from Austin, Texas, had carefully chosen every element of her outfit for this moment. The ornate maang tika adorning her forehead had been blessed by 7 different temple priests. The gold necklace around her neck contained a small locket that nobody could see, but held immense significance. Every single bangle on her wrists, all 21 of them, represented a month of waiting, hoping, and praying for a miracle that seemed impossible. The Betty family had already defeated the Morrison family from Georgia in the main game, and now they stood on the precipice of winning $20,000. Aditi's cousin Raj had gone first in Fast Money, scoring 132 points. She needed just 68 points to win, a relatively easy target for most contestants. But Aditi wasn't most contestants, and this wasn't just any game. Steve approached her with his signature confidence, adjusting his pristine black suit jacket as he prepared for what he assumed would be another routine Fast Money round. But something about Aditi's energy made him pause. She wasn't displaying the typical nervous excitement he'd seen thousands of times before. Instead, she seemed to be holding something back, something powerful that threatened to overflow at any moment. "Aditi, you look absolutely stunning," Steve said warmly. "That yellow sari is gorgeous. Special occasion?" Aditi's hand instinctively moved to touch the fabric, and her voice trembled slightly as she responded. "This sari, it has a story, Mr. Harvey. My mother-in-law gave it to me this morning. She said it would bring blessings. She said yellow is the color of new beginnings in our culture." "Beautiful. Beautiful." Steve nodded, not yet understanding the weight of her words. "Well, you know how this works. 5 questions, 20 seconds. Raj got you 132. You need 68 for that $20,000. You ready?" Aditi closed her eyes for just a moment, and in that brief second she thought about everything that had led to this moment. The devastating diagnosis 5 years ago. The 3 failed IVF attempts that had drained their savings and their hope. The night she and her husband Vikram had held each other and cried until they had no tears left. The phone call that had changed everything. The 2 little faces in a photograph that had instantly felt like home. "I'm ready," she whispered. 20 seconds on the clock, Steve announced. "Here we go. Name something that makes a house a home." Aditi's answer came without hesitation, but her voice carried an emotion that made Steve do a double take. Children's laughter. "Name a sound that keeps you up at night." "A baby crying," Aditi responded, and a single tear escaped down her cheek. "What age do people say is the best age to be?" 3, she said, her voice cracking on the number. "Name something people save money for." "Adoption," Aditi said, and that's when she completely broke down. Steve, confused by the specificity of the answer and her emotional reaction, continued with the final question. "Name something that comes in pairs." Through her tears, Aditi gave an answer that would soon make sense to everyone. Sisters waiting for parents. The buzzer sounded, but instead of the usual post-game excitement, Aditi collapsed against the podium, sobbing uncontrollably. Steve immediately rushed to her side, his face filled with concern. "Aditi, honey, what's wrong? What's happening? Talk to me." The studio audience was completely silent, sensing they were witnessing something far beyond a game show moment. Aditi looked up at Steve, her carefully applied makeup streaming down her face, and what she said next changed everything. "Mr. Harvey, I'm sorry. I need to tell you something. Those answers, they're not just answers. My husband and I are adopting 2 little girls, twin sisters. They're 3 years old and they're waiting for us in India, but we might lose them." Steve's expression shifted from concern to deep empathy. "What do you mean, you might lose them?" Aditi took a shaky breath, trying to compose herself enough to explain. We've been trying to have children for 5 years. The doctors told us our chances were basically zero. We spent everything on treatments that didn't work. $60,000, Mr. Harvey. Our entire life savings, my parents' help, everything. The audience was hanging on every word, many already reaching for tissues. 8 months ago, Aditi continued, my husband's aunt called us from Mumbai. She volunteers at a children's home there. She told us about these twins, Anaya and Asha. They're 3 years old and have been waiting for a family since they were 1. The moment we saw their picture, Mr. Harvey, I can't explain it. It was like looking at our daughters, like they had always been ours and we just hadn't found them yet. Steve nodded, encouraging her to continue while keeping a supportive hand on her shoulder. We started the adoption process immediately, but international adoption from India, it's expensive. So expensive. $38,000 for everything. The agency fees, the legal costs, the documentation, the travel, the required donations to the children's home. We've scraped together $20,000 by selling my jewelry, my car, taking extra jobs. My mother-in-law sold land in India that had been in our family for generations, but we're still $18,000 short. Aditi paused, wiping her tears with the edge of her sari. Here's the worst part, Mr. Harvey. There's another family interested in adopting them, a wealthy family from London. If we can't complete the payment in the next 30 days, we lose them. Those little girls who already feel like our daughters, they'll go to strangers. The studio was so quiet you could hear the hum of the lights. Steve was visibly moved, his own eyes glistening. But that's not even the hardest part, Aditi continued, her voice breaking again. The children's home has been sending us videos. The girls have been learning English words. They call us Mama and Papa in the videos. They've been told their parents are coming for them. They made us drawings that say my family with stick figures of all 4 of us together. If we can't adopt them, how do you explain to 3-year-olds that the parents they're waiting for aren't coming after all? Steve stood there processing this incredible story. So when you said sisters waiting for parents, for things that come in pairs. I was thinking of them. Aditi nodded. Every answer I gave was about them. The children's laughter we're desperate to hear in our house. The baby crying that we'd give anything to wake up to. 3 years old, their age. Everything is about Anaya and Asha. Let's look at your answers, Steve said, his voice thick with emotion. Let's see how you did. They turned to the board and something remarkable began happening. 32 points appeared. The number 1 answer. A baby crying for a sound that keeps you up at night. 28 points. Another strong answer. 3 years old for the best age to be. 15 points. Not the top answer, but solid. You said adoption for something people save money for. The board revealed 8 points. It was on the board, though not a common answer. That's 83 points, Steve announced. You've won the $20,000. The audience erupted, but Steve raised his hand for quiet. Wait, we still have one more answer. You said sisters waiting for parents for things that come in pairs. The board buzzed. 0 points. The answer wasn't there, but Steve turned to the camera with tears streaming down his face. You know what? That may be 0 points on our board, but that's the best answer ever given on this show. Sisters waiting for parents. That's worth more than any points. Aditi was crying too hard to stand, and that's when something unprecedented happened. Steve made an announcement that would change everything. Aditi, look at me, he said, helping her stand. You've won $20,000. That's yours. But I'm going to tell you something. The Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation is going to give you the other $18,000 you need. We're going to make sure Anaya and Asha come home. The studio exploded. The audience leapt to their feet in a standing ovation. Aditi's family rushed the stage, but in the middle of the chaos, Aditi did something that touched Steve's heart even more. She pulled out a small photo from the hidden pocket in her sari and showed it to him. This is them, she said through her tears. These are our daughters. The photo showed 2 little girls in matching pink dresses, holding hands, smiling shy smiles at the camera. Their eyes were bright and full of life and hope. Steve looked at the photo and made another decision. We're going to do more than just give you the money. Family Feud is going to document your journey to bring these girls home. We want America to see this story. We want them to understand that families are made of love, not just DNA. But Aditi had one more revelation that sent shockwaves through the studio. Mr. Harvey, there's something else. Every night at the children's home, they have the girls say goodnight to our picture. They kiss it and say goodnight, Mama. Goodnight, Papa. See you soon. They've been doing this for 6 months. 6 months of promising we're coming. We can't let them down. We just can't. That's when Steve Harvey, the man who always had something to say, who'd built a career on quick comebacks and humor, stood silent for a full 10 seconds. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely controlled. They won't have to wait much longer because their parents are coming for them. You and Vikram are going to India, and you're bringing your daughters home. The episode aired 2 weeks later, and within hours it had been shared millions of times. The clip of Aditi saying sisters waiting for parents and Steve's emotional response became one of the most watched moments in television history. But what happened next exceeded everyone's expectations. A GoFundMe page that Vikram had quietly set up months earlier suddenly exploded with donations. People weren't just donating the $18,000 needed, they were giving more. Messages poured in from around the world. Parents who had adopted, couples struggling with infertility, families who understood the agony of waiting. Everyone saw themselves in Aditi's story. Within 48 hours, the fund had raised $300,000. Aditi and Vikram were overwhelmed. They made a decision that would impact many more lives. They would take only what they needed for Anaya and Asha's adoption and use the rest to start a foundation helping other families adopt children from India who had been waiting the longest for homes. 3 weeks after the episode aired, Steve Harvey and a small film crew met Aditi and Vikram at the airport. They were flying to Mumbai to bring their daughters home. Aditi wore another traditional sari, this one in deep purple. Purple represents the universe's infinite possibilities, she explained to Steve. Today, anything is possible. When they arrived at the children's home, a modest building in a crowded Mumbai neighborhood, nothing could have prepared them for the moment of meeting. The girls were in the playroom, unaware their new parents had arrived. The caretakers wanted to prepare them first, but then Asha saw Vikram through the window. She grabbed her sister's hand and shouted, "Papa! Papa, come! Anaya, Papa here!" Anaya looked and saw Aditi, and both girls began jumping up and down, calling out, "Mama, Papa, you came, you came!" The reunion that followed broke everyone who witnessed it. Aditi and Vikram rushed into the room, falling to their knees, as the girls ran into their arms. The girls touched their parents' faces over and over as if making sure they were real. They kept saying, "You came for us," in a mixture of Hindi and English. Steve, standing back with tears streaming down his face, said to the camera, "In 30 years of television, I've never seen anything like this. This is what love looks like. This is what family means."